Welcome to a presentation on using Sage 100 Contractor to import parts to the parts database or to update part prices of parts that are already in the database. How do you do this? First of all, we create a spreadsheet and we put in the information that we want to import into the program, making sure that we have recognizable field names in the top row of the spreadsheet. Then we open up the 9.6 screen and we choose Add Parts. We select the Excel file that we have put the information into. Then we go through a process of mapping field names to the Sage 100 field names. That's pretty simple. We'll show you how to do that in a second. Then press the Add Update button and our parts are pulled in. Let's take a look at that process. First thing we want to do is we want to take a look at our database of parts. And this is pretty simple. We have in here several little bits of information, a part number, an alpha part number, that might be the supplier's part number. We have a description, in this case it's a V-belt. We might have a class that we might want to import. We're not going to do that today. We might have a category that we want this to fall into. It does require a unit of measurement. We have our part prices. What we're going to do here is this makes it a little more recognizable. And that's about it. So we set this up, and in here, as you can see, we've got some 115 parts that we're going to pull into the database. Now we're going to save that, make sure we know where it's located. So if I do a save as, I've already done this once, so it's going to tell you that we have a belts Excel file out on the desktop. Okay, so then what we're going to do is I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go into the Add Update Parts, and I'm simply going to select Add New Parts. Now it will add part numbers if we want, in which case all we have to do is put in a starting part number. I already have part numbers in my spreadsheet, so I'm going to unselect that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the source file, which is my belts. And what I would do then is I would just field by field say that the Sage 100 field name part number is mapped to my part number column. The description is going to map to this guy over here. I've got an alpha part number that I'm going to put in the alpha part number field. I may pull in the class. I may pull in the class name. In this case, I'm going to put the category, which is just an arbitrary thing, into user defined one. I'm going to go up here and match the unit of measure to my UOM. And then I have two prices at the part level, which is the default cost. That's what it cost me to buy this. And that's going to be my supplier price. And then our sales price is the marked up amount that we might sell this to somebody for. And that's about it. I don't have to choose all of these. I can easily save these if I'm going to use this as a template. So watch what happens if I go in here. I'm going to start this process all over again by just opening the template. And that's all like just saved. As soon as this gets done, I say Add Update Parts. And as you can see, there's a little progress meter down there at the bottom. Just take just a second to cook here. And we're done. So what happened as a result of that? Let me cancel out of this. I'm going to go into my parts database. And as you can see, the part numbers match. Everything matches over here. These parts have been just added into my database. Let's pull this over here and show you the other stuff that was added. Again, pretty simple and straightforward. Next thing we'll do is we're going to update the parts. Prices, excuse me. So we'll go over here to our belts database, and we're going to do just some quick calculations over here. We're going to say that the price has gone up by 10%, let's say. And so I'm just doing this to show you how this works. We're going to say that this equals that times 1.1. So now my new price from my supplier is $4.51. And my sales price is going to be equal to this times a 300% markup. So that times 3. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to copy this down to the bottom. Then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do a special paste where I just paste the values in. So now I've got the 451. Copy this down. And I've got my new prices, which is 300% of that. And then, actually, I did that wrong. So we'll go up here and do that again. This equals this times 3. Do this one more time. Sorry about that. And now I have my prices. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this as update belts. Minimize that, and we'll go through the process again, where what we'll do is we'll add update parts, update the prices, select my source file. It's the update belts. Notice I only have a few things in here that are going to get mapped, so I'm going to update the default cost, which will allow me to just update a few fields in here, the default cost and the billing amount. I could also add a vendor price. We'll do that in a second. So we're just going to do the default cost for right now, and we're going to, we could match just the alpha part number, which would be the supplier's number if we wanted to. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go part number by part number. So we're going to say that part number equals part number, description equals this guy here, unit of measure is this guy, and then the supplier price is a default cost, and we have the billing amount. And we simply add update parts. And it goes through and it updates my 114 parts. Pretty simple. Now what I do is I go over here and I take a look at my parts again. And we can see that the default cost and prices have been updated accordingly. Again, pretty simple stuff. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a vendor. This, again, pretty simple stuff. We're going to do add update parts this time, update the part prices. We're going to use the vendor price, and we're going to do this by vendor name. Now, we don't have an example of this in here, but you may assign vendors to parts. So you could have as many vendors as you want for a particular part. We would simply match the name to a name that we had out in the file, and then it would go through and update the prices for the vendor for the part. We won't do that in this particular example, but I think you'll probably get the idea. By the way, let's take a look at our parts just to show you what I was just talking about there. I can, for any particular guy or any particular vendor out here, we can, excuse me, part, we can add a vendor. So we could say our preference is vendor number 1. We'll pick any vendor out of our guy. We'll say over here that their part number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and their price is $4.25, let's say. So again, we could add as many vendors as we want and then use this to go through and update this price based on the vendor name that we have in our Excel file. Okay, so updating parts again is pretty much the same as adding parts, only we choose the update parts box and go through the same steps. That pretty much does it. If you have any questions or what have you, please give us a call. CFO on the Go. Here's the 800 number, and here's our website. Thanks very much for watching.